hi there, and ho there. I screwed that up anyway. I don't know why I put an and in that. Hey there, hi there, ho there. I'm Kevin Saunders, and you're listening to Bad Philosophy. I am your host. I'm here with guests for the very first time in a very long time. I'm not entirely sure the last time we recorded an episode. I feel like June of 2015, which puts this at about 8 months previous. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds...
You're supposed to interrupt me as I do the intro. That's my bit.
Sorry.
If I'm the new you, you have to be the new me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. 1, 2, bad...
Okay, fine. Steven's here. Kevin's here. Steven's actually not here. Steven's in Canada. Kevin is here. And as I'm the host of the show, I'm wherever here is. Steven is in Canada. Steven Torrance, who has been on what I, not even ironically, have been calling a vision quest when people ask me what happened to Steven. And we're certainly glad to be back. We're certainly glad to have him with us. And he's brought with him what I suspect will be an absolutely amazing guest. Anna Huertas, would you like to introduce yourself? Say a little bit something about yourself.
Well, hi, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here. So something about me. I am Spanish, so I hope you enjoy the accent. And I am the president of the Spanish transition movement. I'm also a permaculture teacher. What else? Worked in international cooperation and rural development, and before that, studied international relations.
All of that sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm sure we will we'll dive into some of that as we talk about what we've been up to for the last year or so, because this is our annual Bad Philosophy New Year's Eve episode, recorded live on what some would consider New Year's Eve if you don't have a calendar.
It's like Chinese New Year's Eve, right?
Or is it? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not Chinese. I know it's about this time of year,
So
we could go with that. It is currently January 25th, 2016, but the year starts when we say it does, because it's not a new year without a Bad Philosophy New Year's episode. Those of you who've been following along with the rules change system that we've implemented a very long time ago, you'll know that I'm now responsible for hosting, and I'm sorry. Let's just start off, Steven. So I don't know if we've actually mentioned this on the show, because I think you told me after we recorded the last episode. Where did you go, and what have you been doing for the last year?
Well, Kevin, it's been quite a ride. I don't think I have, and I just want to say officially and on an episode that will probably be somewhat real time. I do apologize for my part in these updates, like not coming out anywhere near anything like timely. I got my wanderlust kicked in, and that's really all there is to it. And I could say a lot more, but it's that I never did a gap year. I found myself in a place in my life where I didn't have a job. I had some money saved up from working at Apple, working at a startup that, if you've been following the show, you've probably heard about. And I was looking for, really doing some deep soul searching, and looking at my own privilege and what am I capable of? What am I passionate about? And it's funny how much it is a follow-on from what you and I talked about in episode, I think it's 152, Kevin, where I was ranting
for that.
Umberto Unger, and all this why can't we change things? And then at some point, I think offhandedly either I or you said maybe we should go live on a commune. And I think that seed just it finally germinated a year later. It was April the following year that this really kicked in for me, where I was just I don't really know what that feels like, right? What does it feel to live in an alternative community? What does it feel to live in community, period, with a capital C, an intentional community? What is this thing called permaculture that I've just, read about maybe on Wikipedia? What is this edge of people trying, like me, asking the same questions? How are we going to live after there's no oil? How do we transition to a type of economy where we're more local in the food that we produce and buy? How do we begin to live a life that is fulfilling for us on a personal and interpersonal level? And I found a small but growing movement that, it's a little bit outside of the mainstream, but not too far out.
Yeah.
As I found really viscerally. And I've been traveling among it as best I can for the last 7 months. So practically speaking, that looked like Scotland and the UK for a couple of months, wrapping up at the Permaculture Convergence where I met Anna, and then spent about a month and a half in Spain and Portugal. Continued on to Germany briefly in the fall, beautiful time of year. Revisited Poland. Some of you all might recall the whole sign language thing. I went back.
I recall that.
Yeah, visited some friends there. Flew to Italy, to a community in North Turin. Spent some time with my mom in Israel, Palestine, and then flew back to Spain and finally here to Canada around the new year, where we're both of us, we could maybe go into more detail about this, but we're working with an international permaculture teacher named Jillian Hovey on kind of getting her like technical life together in a way that allows her to do more of the thing that she does well. And we could go into more detail on that. But that's
we're gonna get into the New Year's stuff eventually. We got time. We're gonna ignore whatever predictions we made last year and just talk about what we want to do going forward. So we got a little bit of extra time. So I'd love to hear from both of you, sort of where you are right now, be it physically, be it emotionally, be it whatever you're doing, and why it matters. Because I'll be honest, this is an area that I know very little about. Mainly things that Stephen has linked to me when he's like, "Kevin, read this thing." I'm like, "Yeah, sure," and I get around to it a couple months later. And I certainly understand the idea of sustainability in a very broad sense, but what I lack is sort of the details of the practicality of it. And I'd love to hear some of that.
Well, you got your second master's in this.
Okay.
So I'm gonna
Oh god.
Yeah.
That master's was so bad. Don't study in France. Anyway.
I've been there, not to France, but I've been to grad school, so it's basically the same everywhere.
Imagine everything you hated about grad school, but in French.
Yeah, that doesn't sound better.
Right.
So, much worse to me. Anyway, so it's interesting that you brought up the idea of sustainability because, of course, everybody thinks they know what sustainability is.
I certainly do. Please prove me wrong.
Very few would actually be able to define it. So I don't know. You're the philosophers. Do you want to give it a shot?
No, of course not.
We're the bad philosophers. We expect no substitute.
Right.
So when people look at the things that don't work in the system that we live in currently, call it poverty, call it corruption, call it environmental degradation, call it even mental illness, people ask themselves the questions, well, what are we doing wrong and how can we live in a more sustainable way? Whatever sustainable means. You dig a little deeper.
Yeah, we'll define that later.
Yeah, basically. And if you dig a little bit deeper, you would see that people don't really think that the way they live isn't sustainable. It's more everything else is unsustainable. Everything else needs to change. Everything else has nothing really to do with me. It's somebody else's responsibility. So there's an oil spill somewhere. Oh, well, yeah, it's terrible and the environment is suffering a lot. But I want to continue taking my car to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sustainable as long as I can pay for it.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah.
I love to have pineapple for breakfast every day. And that's sustainable as long as you can pay for it. And the pineapple gets to the supermarket. What if...
Yeah, okay, keep going. You've clearly got a speech and I want to hear it.
Like in a red and stuff. This is the reason why my friends look at me and go like, where did we go wrong? You were meant to be a diplomat and a ballerina. Anyway.
Never too late.
Never too late. Well, So what if tomorrow there was no more oil, but the price of oil was unpayable? What if you could not get to work? What if you went to the supermarket and there was no more food? That's what a certain more extreme wing of this movement is asking. Like the people who are in the degrowth movement, they say it's not enough for things to be sustainable. Or rather, in order for things to be sustainable, we need to reduce dramatically our consumption. Of course, that makes most people cringe in fear and alarm.
I can certainly see why.
No pineapples for breakfast?
Yeah. What do you mean I'm not going to be able to use my car? And maybe this rings a louder alarm in cultures like the United States, where people probably depend more on their cars than they do in most of the cities in Europe. But still, in Europe, people would also just scream around.
I mean, if you're talking, peak oil sort of situation where the energy doesn't exist anymore, that doesn't just affect cars. That affects all sorts of transportation methodologies that we have in the world right now. So yeah, I certainly see that.
It affects everything that you do and have and eat. And in some ways are. So what is a more creative and human response to this challenge, other than telling people, hey, tomorrow you just have to quit your job and try to find a piece of land and farm for your own food? Because it's not like it's that easy to get land, even if you wanted to, even if that was your dream.
Yeah.
Then that's where other movements come in, like permaculture. You want to say a word about permaculture?
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have taken some stabs at definitions of it when we recorded our last episode, which I re-listened to the other day, and I think the thing is with permaculture that a lot of people want to know what it is, and I hear again and again, and this is an understanding that I've come to, is that permaculture is more about a how. It's a way of thinking about systems. And it really is hard to kind of get that across, because people want to go, oh, well, permaculture is all about gardening, right? Or it's all about a certain kind of plowing the land to work a particular way. Or it's all about, following these ethical principles in a certain way. But it really is like a lens, and you might call it like a paradigm or a framework or something like this. It's a worldview. And it's a philosophy. I mean, if you want to get right down to it, permaculture is a philosophy, and it's maybe more specifically a design philosophy that incorporates, it networks together things from a lot of different places. So it's a pattern, it's a web work, it's a framework, and generally the kinds of things that it's pulling together and the ways that it's pulling them together are in this direction of how do we create a permanent culture. That's where the word comes from.
Sure.
And not permanent in the sense of unchanging, but permanent in the sense of able to regenerate and continue the same way that life itself does on the planet, and the same way that humans have been able to for hundreds of thousands of years up until very recently. We have a very impermanent culture now, and some people would say that's a virtue, right? But it's not a virtue when things that feel very permanent, very consistent, like an oil-based global economy, are discovered to be not so permanent, right? And that is very fragile, right? And it's really fragile given the kinds of changes that it has brought about in our climate, and the kind of not really randomness, but diminished predictability that is coming. People say global warming, global cooling, all of this. It's more like global we don't knowing.
Change.
Right. And permaculture it incorporates a lot of things to help someone begin to think about a response.
So,
that's how. Okay, so that's my definition.
Yeah, a very a short phrase to define it is, how do we put all the different elements that surround us, available to us, how do we put them together so that all beneficial relationships are maximized?
To the extent that we can.
Yeah,
right?
it's maximized as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that you brought in two very interesting ideas. One of them is not sustainability, but regeneration. So as we said before, what is sustainable? Well, maybe sustainable at this point is not enough. What we need is to regenerate, to increase the good things, to just go back to a more natural biorhythm. And the second one is resilience. You didn't call it that way, but resilience is the capacity of systems to absorb and adapt to change without crumbling.
No.
So we have a saying in this field that if it's not fun, it's not sustainable. And I'm wondering, Kevin, I'm getting back to you being the host and take this in the direction.
This is easy. I just ask a question and let y'all go for like 20 minutes.
I mean, we do like to rabbit trail on bad philosophy, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also really curious how the last year has been for you, because we've checked in, but I don't think you really have.
Yeah, no, definitely. The changes in my life are, I would say, not as dramatic in terms of like I live in the same apartment, but I've had a lot of opportunities to not in small part spurned on by some of the things that you've done, Stephen, sort of reflect on my environment, as it were. Not as much in a literal sense, but more in sort of a metaphysical or philosophical sense of sort of the things I consume. And this sort of transitions into it being the New Year's episode. This is the first time I've sang this like in a public forum. But you're familiar with my 52 book challenge that I have every year.
Yeah.
And have successfully for the past 3 years, I believe 2013 was the first year I did it, 2013, 14, 15. Yeah. So I've done it for 3 years now. Read at least 52 books across the duration of the year. That's not necessarily one a week because I multitask. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books on my desk that I'm reading at this moment, not to mention the various ebooks or digital books that I have access to. I juggle books. It's kind of a weird thing. But this year, I've decided to sort of take a different perspective on that, which is to say, I want to expand my perspective. There was a moment, it was in grad school, so it was 4 to 5 years ago at this point, maybe more, that I sort of realized that intentionally or otherwise, the majority of the media that I consumed, specifically this was related to my DVDs, is created by and stars straight white dudes. It's that classic triumvirate. I counted. I have a 500 plus DVD collection, and I counted under 7. I think it was exactly 7. It was under 10 movies or TV shows I had that had a primarily female or not straight white dude protagonist. Which was an epiphanatic moment, but I didn't actually do anything to change that anytime recently. So this year, there's an author, KT Bradford. I'm double checking that's who it is. Who put out a challenge a few years ago to stop reading books by straight white men. Yeah, KT Bradford. And so I decided to do that this year, just because I can.
Does she give a list of books? Does she provide a list of books?
She recommends some, but part of the challenge...
I read one of her articles before coming to Canada, like 3 weeks ago.
Oh, great. I have not actually read anything other than that particular article, but I certainly respect it, and I read that article, and the article was actually originally on exojane.com, which said, stop reading straight, white, cis male authors for 1 year. And the thing about it is not to say that, oh, you can't, read these things, but it's sort of the realization that that's mostly what's out there. And that part of the challenge and part of the interesting thing is trying to look harder and search harder for those sorts of things and find those perspectives that you don't otherwise encounter when a publishing field that is dominated at least 80% by a group of people that make up less than 30% of the population. And so far, it's been a successful year. I've read about I'm at about 4 books for the year so far, so I'm pretty much on point. And those other 5 that are sitting on my desk all qualify. And one of the things that's really interesting to me that I think ties back into our previous discussion, or current discussion, it's all one discussion, are the works of Octavia Butler. Specifically, the novel that I'm reading right now, which is called The Parable of the Sower, which is set in what I would almost describe as the permaculture nightmare, which is to say that it is a society about 10 years from now. The book was actually written in the mid to late 90s. There was actually 2 of them, but was set in what's now about 10 years from now, about a world of scarcity of these sorts of resources that you're talking about, Anna, of oil, of food, of these sorts of things, and sort of people. The book is about this community that was originally it was a gated community in an affluent suburb of somewhere in Chicago, maybe, I don't know. I'm probably getting that wrong. It's probably clear in the book, and I'm just being dumb. Who are having to find these sorts of things out about sustainability, or about recreatability, or about finding a ways to survive in a world where that's no longer an option. And they sort of exist in this world that is not just gated off, but now walled off. They've built a wall, they've reinforced it over years, and don't really leave except for very occasionally, because the outside world, which has even less, is dangerous, and it's sort of that collapse of society mindset. And I'm halfway through the first book in the 2-book cycle, so I don't know where it goes from here. But it definitely, is very much sort of, and the protagonist is very much saying, even though we are at this point, everybody else is still sort of being blind to where things are going. And she's sort of trying to prepare for that, whereas everybody else is just saying, well, we're just going to wait till it gets better. Someone else will fix it, someone else's problem, as you were sort of saying, Anna. So hearing that definitely resonated with me. And one of the things I love about science fiction in particular is the ability for it to, as Cory Doctorow says, speak to the present. Even if sci-fi is about the future, it's really about the now. It's really good at predicting what's going on in the world today, rather than any sort of indication of where things might be in the future. So that's one of the biggest things. I've also started running, which is weird. I've downloaded the Zombies 5K run app, so I get chased by zombies to keep me motivated, and I've been doing that.
I don't think I ever remember you running ever.
No, never. That was my slogan when it came to running. I only run if there's a bear chasing me. And while there's not a bears run app, there is a zombies run app, and that's close enough.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite halfway through the Zombies 5K program, which means in about another month or 2, I will be hopefully running or jogging. I'm a jogger. I don't like run.
Yeah.
I will be jogging a 5K hopefully soon, and then continuing that without any particular goal of like, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, or I want to be healthier. It actually started because I was bored, which is the weirdest probably reason anybody's ever started an exercise regimen. But it gives me something to do when I get up in the mornings. I'll wake up at 6 a.m., go run for 30 to 40 minutes with this app, and then I've got the rest of the day ahead of me. So if nothing else, it's an alarm clock.
Nice. And I'm curious, do you still have the 3 New Year's resolutions?
The classics, what were they? Grow a beard, eat less salad, and don't explode. So far, those are still pretty on point. Last year, I actually had the opportunity to grow a beard between January and December because I shaved it all off. At about almost exactly this time last year when I was doing some cosplay as Hellboy. So I had to regrow my beard. So I felt that one actually accomplished. I don't actually keep track of the number of salads I eat anymore, but it's certainly not a lot. I don't eat a lot of salad still. And my physical embodiment still exists. It has not disincorporated through any sorts of fire explosion means at all. So I'm still on point for those they've kind of become that point that everybody wants a New Year's resolution to become, where it's not something they're trying to do; it's just something that happens.
Nice. That's really good to hear. I mean, especially the not exploding part.
Yeah,
I speak for all of us.
It's a classic.
Very happy. It just segue off of that. The experience of actually growing a beard.
Which I can totally relate to, by the way.
It has been interesting. You know, a lot of new discoveries. You know, feelings and growing my hair out. Which for those of y'all watching the video, you can see I've got the longest hair that I've ever had in my life ever, and the longest beard that I've ever had in my life ever.
Got nothing on me still.
Wait, do it again. I've got a lot of catching up to do.
Someone asked me, I did the math recently, and I've been growing my hair poorly, I should add. Like, I don't take good care of it, and that's a problem. But I have not significantly cut my hair since I graduated, since technically the semester before I graduated.
Wow.
And I cut my hair, I graduated undergrad, not grad school.
Yeah.
I cut my hair at that point in time as part of my student teaching gig because my advisor was like, look, you're in West Texas and you're going to go work in a West Texas high school. I don't care, but they will. And so I went to a Great Clips or a Sport Cuts or something and was like, just take it all off, do whatever you got to do, and did not cut it again after that in terms of any sort of significant work. And sort of for a while it was sort of, big middle finger to, making me cut my hair. But now I like long hair. I always have.
I'm digging it so far. It's not like I have long hair, but every time I shake my head, it's like a new sensation.
Yeah. If you have an iPhone with a slow-mo camera, it's really fun to shake your hair in slow-mo.
Oh, you gotta do.
If you haven't done that, I certainly recommend it. That's true for anybody with long hair.
Okay.
Or if you don't have long hair, just wiggle your face and go, and that's great on slow-mo as well. Both of those are the really only need you have for a slow-mo camera.
I resonate with that. I'm giving you, this is in community, they do this a lot.
Okay.
What is it? What are they called? Fingers? But just like
fairy fingers.
It's a way of being like, I totally did that. I rocked that. Like,
the communities I'm in, we do snaps.
Yeah, jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Yeah.
I resonate with that because we're in the as our teacher would put it, we're in the ecology with a few kids of various ages, 5-year-old, 12-year-old, and 16. Over 10 over the few houses that we're staying in, and the 12, was it 10? Is Eli 10?
Eli's 10.
Eli's 10. He suggested I do the slow-mo thing to his face, and it was just a really popular thing at the dinner table.
It's the best.
It's so cool.
It's so great. And if you can combine the wiggly face with really long hair, it's pretty amazing.
Gold, absolute gold.
Yeah. A hair whip into a face wiggle is probably the best video that it will ever exist.
I have a question, unless you wanted to follow up.
Sure. I'm host in name, but that means that I can let you ask me questions. So go ahead.
So I was kind of checked out of pop culture for like the second half of 2015, and really like the second 2/3.
And he survived.
You can do that? Yeah.
Really survived it. I don't know how. Like I heard about. David Bowie was in 2015, but like I hear about that kind of stuff through people. It's a really weird way to hear about news. Rather than I saw that on Facebook already. Mm-hmm. So what did I miss in 2015 that you think I would care about?
Wow. It's cute that you think that like I'm plugged into what pop culture is saying.
Well, I just remember from the Apple Store that stuff is just a lot more present, and like people in the Apple group tend to like grab onto trends a lot sooner and just be much more. And you're swimming in consumer culture, right? So people are
certainly that. Well, if I'm swimming into consumer culture, I'm like that fish that doesn't have a word for water sometimes.
Okay.
I mean, I know the big things are right now. That I'm aware of are more cultural trends rather than any sort of like pop culture-y stuff.
Okay. I guess what I mean by that is just like alternative culture. Culture, right?
The X-Files came back yesterday, so that was exciting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Watched the first episode of that. That was neat.
Was it good?
Not great. It was not one of the X-Files' better episodes, but certainly not one of their worst.
Okay.
As someone who's only ever been sort of a casual X-Files fan, I watched it occasionally when it was on originally.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loved Mad Max Fury Road except me and Amy.
I hated it.
Okay. I thought it was a serviceable action film and little else. I'm curious to hear what you thought, Anna.
Well, it was recommended by 3 different people whose choices in movies I generally respect.
Sure.
And I didn't want to watch it instead of that because they said, you're going to like it because it's a feminist movie.
Yeah, that's a load. No.
A feminist movie? Okay, I admit that I watched it when I was like almost dying from the flu and whatever, but still, I was
not better when you're conscious.
The film was. I haven't watched any Mad Max film before, but it was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
sadly predictable, like very predictable, and although like the main female character was a bit more defined, you don't really. It's like, she was hurt as a child, so now this is like revenge. And there were some nice touches here and there, but otherwise, it was horrible. I thought it was disgusting.
I have a strong feeling you and I are going to get along really well.
From the permaculture point of view, the moment in the film when they open up the waterway for the water to fall, I was like, dude, you live in a desert. What are you doing? You know that water?
The worst possible way to deal with that. I agree on most of those points. Yeah. All the people saying that it was a feminist film clearly have never seen a feminist film.
Yeah, they don't know what feminism means.
No. Charlize Theron is fine, but the movie was still totally from Max's perspective. Like, it wasn't even a female-centered film. It was all about his gaze and his perspective of the events. And the fact that everybody's like clamoring for it to get Best Picture is a little bit disappointing to me.
Oh, wow.
It did get nominated for Best Picture.
It did?
It did. So you missed that. I think it did.
Wow. All right.
I'm now 90% sure it did because you've made me doubt myself.
But
I'm pretty sure it got nominated.
The Academy Awards episode from 2009? 10? 9, I think.
Time is meaningless.
Yeah. When we had Eric Braeden on after and talking about Slumdog Millionaire and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to have to rely on you for Oscar nomination news. And
I'm so vaguely aware of the Oscar nominations. I know they came out. I'm not. I don't think you realize that I'm not actually plugged into anything, Steve.
Okay. This is actually really heartening to me. So well, wait. We should talk about Star Wars while we're talking about movies.
Oh yeah, Star Wars is fine.
Okay.
Did you see it? Did you enjoy it?
I saw it in Israel with Hebrew subtitles.
Oh, I remember. I saw the Instagrams.
Yeah. Oh, but this is a brief aside. I've been taking every Friday. I've been taking a photo of this armadillo named Barton, which I would totally show on camera, but he's downstairs. Maybe I'll go run and get him.
You know what armadillos look like, people.
Yeah, but in front of movie
so
posters.
Cute. You have no idea.
I'll go. But Star Wars. I found it to be a solid 4. Maybe 3.5. Like
I gave it a B.
Yeah, like it was fine. And I really didn't expect to walk out of this really overhyped movie going, yeah, that was okay. But it was like, all right.
That was certainly the most Star Wars film I've seen in the last 10 years.
Totally, and it reinforces maybe something I said on the show before, which is J.J. Abrams is like an expert at fan service, and is like iterating that with every movie. But that's do that.
Yeah, I will say I am still excited for the next Star Wars, mainly because it's being directed by Rian Johnson, who is a director that I do respect a lot from. His other previous films have definitely impressed me.
Didn't he do Brick? And,
he did Brick, Brothers Bloom. Say again.
Looper with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Looper, which I didn't think was his best film. So his trend's not great.
Right.
He also directed 2 very famous episodes of Breaking Bad. He directed the episode Fly, which was an entire episode dedicated to killing a fly, which was pretty good. He also directed Ozymandias, which was the second to last episode, and considered by many to be the absolute best of the series. But I also didn't really like Breaking Bad, so what do I know?
Well, looking forward to that one then. I was reminded of the Star Wars thing by the we were talking about. People talked about Star Wars being kind of more feminist than any of them before, which yes, it is.
I haven't watched it, but can we talk about that?
Being the most feminist Star Wars movie does not mean much.
That's true. and that what is it? Rey was somebody called the Screen Junkies review called her. She was a Mary Sue.
Yes,
like a character that arrives fully formed and just kind of perfect for no reason. And that Charlize Theron's character in Mad Max Fury Road sounds like a similar thing, where like there's a female in this really powerful role, but she's
not washing the dishes. Wow.
but then it's like, but she's not an interesting character, so it's like not enough.
Wait,
it really is not enough.
Is there more than one female?
Technically, yes. There are 3.
At some point in the movie.
Okay, we talked.
The movie only barely passes the Bechdel test.
Exactly. Yeah. So
only barely. And yeah. Which as we've go ahead.
Passes the Bechdel test. That doesn't mean it's feminist.
No, of course not. No, that's
right.
It just means
the Bechdel test is a low bar.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the low bar. You gotta go higher to actually become a feminist film.
So Star Wars happened.
Yeah.
What else, Kevin? What else crossed your radar that was really cool?
What else? The TV show Making a Murderer I'm watching on Netflix, which just is funny to me because it's a TV show. It's a documentary, first of all, which you don't see many documentary TV shows, but it's a documentary about how the justice system in America is broken and corrupted. And the funny thing about that to me is people are standing up and paying attention because it happened to a white guy. And it's really about not that what he's going through and has gone through and is in jail for a very suspicious case where many people think he did not do it, and there's a lot of evidence saying he didn't. But those of us who've been the criminal justice system has been broken for years are kind of finally.
So it's like Serial, the TV show.
Oh, quite a bit like Serial, the TV show. Many people are calling it Serial Season 2 because the actual Serial Season 2 people aren't finding as interesting because it's not about a murder mystery. It's a deep investigation into the Bowe Bergdahl case.
Which, for our non-American listeners...
Yeah, Bowe Bergdahl was as I'm learning from listening to I didn't know who he was before I listened to Serial Season 2.
Non-American and non-English speaker.
Right.
Yeah. He was a soldier in the army in Afghanistan who left his post intentionally and was captured by the Taliban for 5 years, and we eventually traded him for some prisoners at Gitmo to get him back. And many people consider him to be a traitor. Many people consider him to be a hero. But it's a very complex story. And really what Serial Season 2 is doing is using that case, in my opinion, to examine the larger conflict in the Middle East and what the U.S.'s role in that is.
Mm.
But it's not is he guilty or not sort of scenario, so a lot of people are like, I don't know.
Mm.
Things that are complex scare me.
Welcome to reality.
Use permaculture.
Yeah.
Permaculture is all about understanding complex systems.
Yeah.
Integrating.
Integrating. Yeah. No, there's no understanding. It's just
it's like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna do something.
It's doing stuff. Yeah. Sorry, we're probably two of the very few people in the world who can do like permaculture inside jokes. So we should really not do those on that.
I don't care.
We should just get Kevin initiated.
Oh yeah. I don't know, Kevin. Do you have any interest in permaculture?
I'm glad that it exists. Is that enough?
We should get him in a PDC.
Yeah, we should. I'll teach it, Kevin. You're gonna have fun.
I'm sure it'll be great.
PDC is one of the only. Is it the only TLA of permaculture?
What's TLA?
3-letter acronym.
3-letter.
Sort of it's a recursive.
No, there are probably more than that one, but
yeah,
it's permaculture design course that gives you the basic.
Yeah, I remember you went to one of those before you went to Iceland or Greenland or Scotland or some other land.
I forgot to mention that I went to Iceland first. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I would, if we're getting into talking about like gated communities and what if the apocalypse happens, where do you want to be? I would love to just go to Iceland because they're on an island and they have an unlimited amount of energy. It's not so great for the climate reasons, right? Like it could either be much warmer up there or much colder, and that could change very quickly. So the being on an island,
put a coat on, you'll be fine, right? That's how that works.
just spend all of your time in the hot springs and just build a house in the hot springs. Like,
I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
Temperature is an illusion made up by the government.
Right. So I'm gonna run downstairs and get Barton so I can introduce him to the video folks. So I have no idea where the conversation will go.
I don't either.
Be surprised.
I didn't know where it was going to go when I sat down, so this is no different than where we were previously. Yeah. So, what?
I'm all yours, Kevin.
Cool. Here's a question that I think is permaculture related. You mentioned previously that if it's not fun, it's not permaculture. So I guess having followed Stephen on the interwebs and some of his updates, I'm curious to see another perspective. What permaculture is clearly a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. There's a lot of energy that has to be put into that system over time to make it work successfully and continually. So I'm kind of curious, what does leisure look like in permaculture communities? What is fun? What is social? What do you do when you're not working as hard as you possibly can?
Kevin, what do you do for a living?
I teach people how to sell electronics.
All right. And how many hours do you work at that?
Far too many.
How much is that?
40 to 50 hours a week.
All right. Do you enjoy it?
Yeah, actually. I get a lot out of it because I enjoy teaching.
Great. So imagine if you could teach, because if what you like is the teaching, then you can teach anything.
Mm-hmm.
Only devote to it the amount of hours that feels good to you without any external imposition, something that's more self-regulated. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of your time, you can dedicate it to making your life look like you would like it to be. I'm not saying that your life doesn't look as
but we'll stipulate.
But let's stipulate, and living in a place that you really enjoy living in, and surrounded by people that you like very much, that inspire you, and that are willing to support you in anything that you want to experiment with or try out or whatever.
I'm getting the hard sell over here. Keep going. I'm interested.
So that's a bit the idealistic point of view of what permaculture could achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the whole point. It's like, let's use permaculture as a systems design. You don't work hard in permaculture. Permaculture is just a way of organizing things. but let's use permaculture to organize our time, our resources, our interests, our passions, the people around us, so that we can live healthier lives. Really, we can live more happy lives. Essentially, that's the whole point. What does leisure look like? Well, for me, devoting 4 hours a day or less to working in a vegetable garden is almost leisure. Okay, I come from Spain. It's sunny, warm, all that stuff. But what do I do the rest of the time? I don't know. I play the guitar. I read books. I talk with Steven. I don't
know. Okay.
And can I paint a picture of what life looked like for me in one of the communities that I visited?
Sure.
So imagine you really, really love making smoothies. Mm-hmm. You love making smoothies so much for yourself and for others that you just really want to do it every single day of the week and share that love and that product with everyone in your immediate community, which is about 50 people. And you live in kind of a pine forest community with, a few buildings around and some sloping grass-covered hills, some gardens around it, nice big town square. People kind of go around on bicycles. So you get up at 7 a.m. and go around with your scissors. And the dew is still on the grass, and the sun is just coming up through the trees, and you're snipping out the plants that would be considered unwanted, the weeds from the garden area, from the fields.
Those are the best.
There, things like stinging nettle and dock and dandelion. These plants that the gardeners just rip out. And you see them a different way. You see that they are so tasty that you want to get the best ones every morning. You go out, you gather a couple, 3 handfuls, bring them back to your house, and there you've got kind of the leftover scrap cutaways from things like the quince fruit and the bananas and the apples that the community has given you from yesterday's dinner period. And these fruits are all still good, but they look a little bit ugly, so nobody really wanted to eat them. You throw those fresh plants that you just cut in with that fruit, and you blend it all up using power generated by the photovoltaics and the wind there in the community. And then you pour all of that delicious, nutritious, green, wonderful into some milk jugs that you then put on the back of your bicycle and ride to each of the buildings in the community and leave there for the people as they get up and go about their gardening jobs or their wood cutting jobs or their whatever kitchen duty they're on. They have their green smoothie and are charged for the day. And the rest of the day you spend, maybe a couple of hours helping in the garden. You spend a few hours reading about community building process, play the piano for a little bit, and then between these you're eating meals prepared by the other people in the community, eating some of the food that you helped grow yourself, and in the evening you all get together in one of the buildings for a dance and drumming session for the Syrian refugees that happen to live half a kilometer away from you. And then you turn in at an early 9 or 10 p.m. and get up and do something like that the next day. And that's your life in a permaculture community.
Okay.
I do. It's not always that I do.
This is the story of someone who I met in one of these communities. This is how he lives his life at 50 years old. And it's variations on that for years, and he's one of the happiest people I've ever met.
Interesting. Oddly, or perhaps not, I bring things back to media a lot. Mm-hmm. That is, interestingly, reminds me of another novel that I read recently. This actually read late last year, called The Dispossessed, which I don't know if you're familiar with the works of Ursula K. Le Guin.
Oh, definitely. I read her version of the Tao Te Ching over the course of 80 days last year.
I didn't know that she had a version of the Tao Te Ching. Interesting. Yeah. She's a fascinating and brilliant author who's still all of her works are amazing. I've only sadly read that particular novel, although it made me definitely want to expand and continue. And one of the five books on my desk is another one of hers, which I'm going to tell this via story because that's what I always do. At some point in the past, somebody asked me, why isn't there very much utopian science fiction? We don't see a lot of that. We see a lot of dystopian science fiction. Dystopias are hot right now, which again, science fiction is good at predicting the present. And in sort of my search to answer that question, I came across the Dispossessed, which is often called, or even subtitled, an ambiguous utopia. And is the closest thing I think I've read to a truly utopian novel, short of the novel called Utopia, which is not a novel, it's didactic and yada yada. But the society, or one of the two societies that the novel depicts, is a group of anarchists and true anarchists who not in the way that it sort of gets thrown around today, whereby it's blowing up buildings or throwing things down, but much closer to the sort of anarchism that Emma Goldman spoke about and others of her time, that sort of turn of the 20th century anarchism. And I could go in and do an entire description of the novel, but the answer is just read the novel. But oddly, what you described very much sounds like life in that world, which is certainly fascinating and certainly enticing, I'm sure, to many people. So I'm interested in hearing more about that. We are running a little bit short on time. You can't probably teach me everything about permaculture in the next 9 minutes.
I have a longer article about this community that I visited.
Yeah, I read it like an hour ago, but I wanted you to tell your story.
Thank you. So what happened in the last 15 minutes of the show, Kevin?
I don't know. We have that rule about pretending to be somebody else that I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
We have that. I don't like it, and so I recommend passing on it because I'm the host and I can do what I want.
Oh, I know who I'm going to do. Sorry, I got a character.
Yeah? Okay, you go ahead.
3 to 5 minutes pretending to be someone like a character.
Yeah, technically the rule says someone we've met in real life, which I think is the problem I like about it the least.
Oh, well, I think it counts if you meet people through the internet, right?
Yeah. What are people anyway? What is meeting?
Yeah, we are bad philosophers after all. So I would just make Do you have someone picked, Kevin?
Not at all. None whatsoever, because I'm bad at this.
Does Barton count as a person?
Yes,
Barton is totally a person. I mean, it's funny. I'm not bad at making up people, which is what I do on my other podcast. Hi, Barton.
Mm-hmm. Boop. Barton the armadillo.
But actually, like, interacting and pretending to be somebody else feels very weird to me, and somewhat disingenuous, which is interesting because I think the rule that was suggested when we made it was to be more genuine.
Yeah, by authentically mirroring somebody else, which interestingly, sorry, I've got I'm going to tie this back around into
Sure, I believe you.
Is that many communities, including the one that I mentioned just now, have these practices of interpersonal work that are integral to the community working. And interestingly, a lot of them reminded me of in pieces and bits and pieces, stuff that we learned at Apple, ways of communicating and kind of, this idea of positioning things and feedback and all. But it's really taken to, the nth degree. And one of them is a practice of, in a particular way, allowing someone to come up into the center of a circle and present something that's going on for them and to really act it out as authentically and truly to themselves as they possibly can be. And then with all the rest of the community just being there, just holding the space for them. And then they can, if they want to, request a mirror where someone can come up and act out what they saw happening with that person, embodying the character of that person, or maybe something within them that resonated with that. Mm-hmm. And it is a way of that kind of impersonation is a way of getting to a more authentic sense of oneself.
I would argue that's very different when it's invited than when it is imposed.
So should we just defy the rule set? Maybe this isn't the best time to bring this up, but I'm okay with just dropping the whole rule set thing.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that too.
I think you guys even better with that.
That was an experiment, and experiments end.
Maybe I'm the only person in the world apart from you two who has. That's how much I love you guys.
We should mention on the show that Anna started listening to the episodes of Backlog of Bad Philosophy without me ever telling her about it, and completely on her own. And
well, she's got good Google foo.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of fun, and you guys have accompanied me in my many road trips. Yes. Mm-hmm.
She's up to episode 23 or so.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So way back when we were even dumber than we are now.
Very. I think the episode on your perspective on bad philosophy, honestly.
Just
yeah.
the microphone.
I want to go listen to. I'm gonna go look up what episode 23 was, just because I have Bad Philosophy pulled up.
Whatever one was pulled up. But is it science?
But is it science? We didn't finish it though because we got into a 3-hour discussion.
We had a follow-on discussion from that episode that was way better than the episode.
Yeah.
Which happens. So yeah, I guess we're gonna skip that whole rule that we impersonate people then.
Yeah, I'm okay with dropping the rules. I'm okay with that. That's not a thing that we need to keep.
Right.
I think it was. I honestly think. You probably remember that meandering conversation we had before we implemented it. That the idea was that we were struggling to come up with what bad philosophy was, but really it was you struggling to come up with what you are.
Yeah, and I guess I sort of continued that journey outside of the rule set of bad philosophy.
Yeah.
So maybe since it's technically the New Year's episode, we should talk about predictions for 2016.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a thing. What will happen in 2016?
Go, Kevin.
I was going to just say that to you. Okay. What do I think will happen in 2016?
I'm mirroring it. I'm reflecting it right back.
Something that I hope will happen in 2016 is I will play even more board games. I don't know if you know, but that's taken off even more so in what I do. That's what I'm going to do for my birthday in a couple days. Is bring some people over, but that's it's a thing that I have fun doing. I have fun engaging people with and building my collection, such as it were. But on a global scale, I'm going to go ahead and say Donald Trump's going to win the presidency, and the world will even be worse off than it currently is. I'm going to go with that. We're going to go with the pessimistic route.
Wow. Okay. I'll go last. Go ahead on it and say again. Because
I was just saying that I love you, Kevin. You're really cool.
Thank you.
On the board games.
Yeah, I think I have within reach. I have probably 3 or 4. There's one right here. There's one in my pocket.
What was that? The world's tiniest board game?
It was not. It was a very tiny board game, but not the smallest. I have a game that it's not a game I invented, but it's a game that I made my own copy of called Win, Lose, or Banana. And I always have a copy of Win, Lose, or Banana in my wallet. It requires 3 cards, one that says win, one that says lose, one that says banana. I always have that in my wallet. I'll actually put some of them up because I'm packing for PAX and I'm planning on bringing them with me. But this is a game called Mint Tin Mini Apocalypse, the one I currently flashed up there. It fits. I'm going to try and hold that up for the camera. It is a little bitty tiny game. that fits inside of a mint tin. These are the instructions for it.
Is it a magnifying glass for the instructions?
No, they're reasonably sized.
Okay, that's like 6-point font.
Yeah.
Probably
It's probably like 8. But this is also part of my quote unquote everyday carry, because you never know when you're going to want to bust out a board game. Because I'm a gigantic nerd.
That's another reason.
And yeah, that's reasonable. No, micro games are a passion of mine as well. The guys that made this one, I helped kickstart this one. Actually, I have 2 others that I'm going to pick up eventually. Mint Tin Aliens and Mint Tin Pirates. There's a game called Iota, which is in a slightly larger box than this. Yeah, I have games inside of games. I have like a game that came in a big cloth bag, and I put 3 other games inside of it.
Nice. You know what's the about men with small board games? They're not competing for anything.
No, we just like having fun on short notice.
Totally. Okay,
it's my turn.
Yeah,
it's stalled long enough.
Guys, you put me in the spotlight, and I don't know. So 2015. I'm just gonna be more positive and say that all these like alternative ways of living are going to become more and more prominent, and slowly, maybe not, it's not going to be a global trend yet, but slowly little towns, small cities will begin to like move towards this road of more regenerative lifestyle and practices and politics and stuff. And other than that, I don't know. Probably the climate will continue getting worse and will become a desert.
All that standard stuff.
Yeah, all that standard stuff. And the US will fuck up at some point. Oh, sorry, I said
oh.
Can we say that? I've been wasting my time this whole time?
Oh yeah, we can say that now, and I'm not bleeping it anymore. Which is, maybe we should do an episode on that. How did fuck become like okay to say pretty much anywhere? And that we've been recording Bad Philosophy. Yeah. I
don't say it that often.
Oh.
I only say it when I speak in English.
Yeah. Well, that's reasonable. I have no problem with it. Like I think an episode on the idea of language and foul language and minced oaths and things like that would certainly be fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know. I noticed that it doesn't really get censored as much as it used to.
You also have been in Europe for 9 months or 7 months.
Oh yeah, it's not really a curse word over there, is it? Well, we are big in Scandinavia, so we.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the same way that saying bloody here is very different than saying it in the UK.
Yeah, that is bloody true. A bloody true fact.
It sounds weird when you say it.
2016, we didn't do like personal predictions and big predictions together. I mean, you kind of did.
I kind of did because whatever.
You didn't do any personal.
Any personal predictions? Well.
You can skip that if you want. It's
it's okay. It's okay. I think Stephen will ask me to marry him by the end of the year.
Whoa.
For example.
Huh?
Your turn.
Sorry,
are you okay?
No. Yeah, I got nothing. So.
All that stalling for nothing, Stephen.
You can see I've really changed.
Yeah.
This one's worth watching on video, y'all.
Are you going to keep the video of it? Are we going to do that? I'm assuming you're putting all the work into this one, just like always.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. I've got my own podcast to edit now.
Catastrophic, everybody.
Yep, catastrophic.horse. Why .horse? Why not?
I'm just reminded of Bad Horse when you say that.
Reasonably. I'm okay with that.
Is
I
Bad
wonder if somebody owns Bad.Horse. This is a thing we have to check now.
to register Bad.Horse if it's not already registered. I regret somewhat that we're doing this live because this.
It looks like it is. Yeah, just go to the website, Stephen.
Okay.
I won't tell you what it is, but somebody owns it. I'll leave it at that.
Is it legal?
It is totally legal, 100%.
Okay, we'll put it in the show notes, I guess. So this has been really, really wonderful being back with you, Kevin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff. Cool beans. Neato burrito.
Well, our energy is a bit dead on this side from a very, very long week / day. So
Yeah, y'all probably work hard all the time. So
yeah.
despite your utopian claims to the contrary,
Well-
permaculture is a wonderful life where everything's happy and easy and fun, and what you do is what you love, and who doesn't want that?
It's, the world is complicated. Sustainability is complicated.
We're still working at integrating the complexity of life.
Alrighty.
Back to us in like 10 years.
Yeah. If they haven't figured it out by then, we'll just quit.
Right. Or, go live in that gated community in Chicago.
There you go.
Yeah. Get the band back together.
That's
Well,
going to be an upcoming episode of Catastrophic.
We're just waiting on you to wrap this one up, Kevin, Mr. Host.
You want me to do it? Just because I'm the host of this podcast? I can make it last as long as I want, as long as I don't say words to the effect of, thanks for listening to Bad Philosophy. We hope you enjoyed this time with us. I know we certainly did. There's certainly a chance that we will have more opportunities in the future to have episodes, either live streamed like we're doing right now, or just, recorded via email, where I send a line to Stephen, he sends a line back to me, until we've got an entire hour's worth of audio. Whatever. Who knows how we're going to film these things in the future. But when we do, you can find us at facebook.com/badphilosophy, twitter.com/badphilosophy. I myself am Kevin Saunders. You can find me at twitter.com/kevzond. And I have to shamelessly plug my other podcast, Catastrophic, a fiasco podcast. You can find us at catastrophic.horse. Why not horse? Why not? Of course, Stephen, as always, I'm glad to have you with me. You're still at twitter.com/storrents. Is that correct?
I am STORRENCE.
That's how you say that. And Anna, as we discovered at the beginning of this episode, you do have a Twitter presence. What is your Twitter handle?
What is it? I don't remember what mine is.
It is Huertas, HUERTAS 234.
Don't follow me because I don't ever tweet anything.
That's the best kind of person to follow. Keeps the timeline real clean.
She is a spam account. She has the egg and everything.
Yeah, your little egg. Oh, those are great. I haven't had an egg in years. I mean, I had one for breakfast, but other than that. So as always, thank you for listening. This has been Bad Philosophy.